My boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years. My biggest insecurity has always been my body, especially my breasts. My weight fluctuates a lot, but I've always had an hourglass figure with big breasts, a big butt, and thick thighs. Weight gain makes my insecurity worse, but even when I'm fit, I still struggle with it. My boyfriend knows this, and throughout our relationship, he's always told me he loves my body and finds me very attractive, which I truly do believe. Even when I was at my lowest, he loves my breasts. He's very attracted and attached to them, and shows it vocally and physically. But I hate them. They're huge and saggy, and even though I thankfully don't have back or shoulder pain, they make me really self-conscious. Clothes are a nightmare. So many things are inappropriate or don't fit right. Finding a good bra or swimsuit is almost impossible, and working out is the worst. I feel like I can't run, jump, or even play with my nephews unless I'm in a double sports bra, and even then, they still bounce everywhere, which makes me so embarrassed and has put me in the most horrifying situations. It's also the first thing that anyone notices when they see me. When we say 1 regular second is 10 breast seconds, it's 100% true. It's like slow motion for me when I'm watching someone's eyes. When I'm on my period, it's even worse. They get bigger, more painful, and so heavy that they can even reach my belly button. It's gotten to the point where I feel like it's stopped me from participating in normal, everyday things, even if it's just psychological. I've been thinking about getting a breast reduction for a couple of years, and really seriously in the past year. I've held off for 2 reasons. I'm worried about breastfeeding issues when I have kids, and that my breasts might grow back during pregnancy. Also, I've gained quite a bit of weight recently, which has made them bigger, so I want to lose 10 to 15 kilograms before I go through with the surgery. But even when I'm at my fittest, I've had all the same problems with my breasts and still wanted the reduction. Earlier this year, I brought up the idea of a breast reduction to my mom and my boyfriend. My mom was initially against it because she's always been wary of surgeries and had concerns about complications, plus breastfeeding issues. My boyfriend, on the other hand, was against it because he loves my breasts the way they are, and he thought it might be against our religion, which was an initial worry of mine too. But we talked about that, and it's not. They both also thought weight loss might help, which I agree with to an extent. Over time, I had multiple separate conversations with them about why I wanted to do it and how much it affects my life. And I showed them that I really researched and learned about it. At one point, I started pointing out to my mom every single time my breasts were causing a problem, and she eventually realized how big of a barrier it is when I interrupted her many times throughout the day to share my inner dialogue. I later found out that she actually did her own research, talked to my dad, who's a doctor, and now both of my parents support me. They said, I just need to talk to specialized doctors first to make sure it's the right decision at this time in my life. My boyfriend has been a different story. I feel like he doesn't really understand or want to understand my perspective. He just focuses on the fact that he loves my breasts and doesn't want them to change. I've explained over and over how much they impact my life, but I feel like he either doesn't believe me or thinks I'm being dramatic or exaggerating. Towards the end, he stopped being vocally against it, I guess from how much I talked about it, and would just listen. But I still knew he was against it, again solely because he liked my breasts. I dropped the idea of the reduction for now because of my weight gain, but I was planning to revisit it once I get my health back on track. That leads to today. I was hanging out with my boyfriend and mentioned how my period symptoms have been showing up earlier than usual, like how my breasts used to hurt less than a week before, but now they hurt a full 10 days before. I also mentioned how much heavier they've gotten since I've gained weight. We briefly talked about the breast reduction, and he kept saying he was against it and even called me selfish. At one point, he joked, I hope something happens and it doesn't work out. He said it jokingly and later clarified that he meant the process leading up to the surgery and not something happening during that actual surgery. But I replied saying, I can't believe he would say that it was my body and it was my choice. and he was being the selfish one just so he could have something to suck on. He said we should find a compromise and not go from full to flat, and I explained that he was being unreasonable and still doesn't even understand the process because it's literally impossible for me to go flat. It's just about reducing them to a size that works with my body type. It wasn't a serious or heated conversation, but I was getting really annoyed but didn't push it further, and we ended up getting coffee, so the topic got sidetracked. Later, we started talking about different body types, and I told him I love skinny girls, bodies, and don't like big breasts, and was showing him examples of what I meant about big breasts. He kept saying how much he loves big breasts while I explained why I don't. I asked him, "So if I didn't have big breasts, you wouldn't like me?" And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "If I saw you walking in the dorms where we met and everything was the same but you didn't have big breasts, I wouldn't have approached you." I was speechless and felt so hurt. I think I said, "What?" And he tried to justify it by saying, "That's like if I was really overweight. Would you have found me attractive or talked to me?" I told him that's not the same thing at all. I just went quiet because I was so upset, and when he realized I was hurt, he told me to grow up. I ended up just leaving without saying anything. I really think he believes he didn't say anything wrong. I don't know if it was actually an offensive comment or if I am just really insecure in myself, but either way, I was really hurt and upset. He still hasn't texted me to apologize or anything because I know he thinks he didn't do anything wrong and I'm being dramatic. Now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting or if he's really being selfish. His attitude about my body over the past 6 months has me second-guessing things, and I actually think he won't be attracted to me after I get the reduction, even though I'll still have what's considered medium-sized breasts and not flat as he claims. This is the man I'm planning on marrying and having kids with, and we have a good relationship otherwise. But this issue has me rethinking things. Like him not being understanding to my feelings about my body, disregarding what I feel about it, and just focusing on himself and what he likes and wants, even though my feelings are obviously the most important in this situation. Am I exaggerating, and does he in fact have a perspective I'm not seeing, or is he actually just rude and selfish? How do I make him understand my perspective when everything I've tried hasn't worked? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Phew. It really frustrates me that he managed to make you prioritize his intimacy toys over your well-being in this breast reduction case. He is so selfish. Do you think he doesn't understand when you explain to him how you feel? Oh yes, he does, but he simply doesn't care. He's not that stupid that he can't understand something that is clearly expressed multiple times. But he doesn't care because he thinks about himself, and he lives for him, not you. Comment 2. I'm not even joking, even a tiny little bit. If you dump your boyfriend, you'll probably lose weight. The stress of being in a situation where you're not seen or respected and you're routinely dehumanized, even in the tiny little ways you can dismiss and dismiss and dismiss, is really, really bad for your health. Many women find their health improves in one way or another after leaving an unhealthy relationship or person. Now for the update. I'm back with an update about the whole breast reduction issue, and honestly, things are just as messy as before. So a week had gone by since that last not-so-fun chat with my boyfriend about my body image and the possibility of getting a breast reduction. I thought, maybe, just maybe, we could have a more productive conversation this time around. Yeah, I know, but a girl can hope, right? So I figured, why not suggest we go to a local mall? I thought it would be a good idea to look at some bras to help me feel a little more comfortable in my own skin. I mean, what's a better pick-me-up than some cute lingerie, am I right? We got to the mall, and I was trying to keep the vibes positive, but then my boyfriend made this comment about how he really prefers me in certain styles that emphasize my breasts. I could feel my self-consciousness creeping back in. I mean, I'm trying to fix the issue here, and he's bringing me down with his preferences. So I stepped away for a moment to collect myself and breathe a little. But of course, he noticed I was gone and came looking for me. Instead of being all supportive and understanding, He jokingly asked if I was trying on something smaller. Seriously? This joke struck such a nerve, and we ended up in another argument right there in the middle of the mall. I couldn't believe it, but I raised my voice, like really explaining how hurt I was by his comments. So, we left the mall in silence, both feeling frustrated and totally misunderstood. A few days later, my parents invited us over for dinner. I thought it might be a nice change of pace, but of course, my dad had to bring up the whole surgery thing, asking how I was doing with that. My boyfriend, wanting to show off his wit again, laughed and said he was against it. Can you believe that? Like, come on! This just frustrated me even more. I could see my mom giving him a stern look, sensing the awkwardness at the table. After dinner, I went to the kitchen to help my mom with the dishes. I needed a moment to vent and get away from the tension. Later that night, my boyfriend suggested we go to this local music festival that was happening over the weekend. I was like, sure, whatever. At the festival, we bumped into one of his old friends who hadn't seen us in ages. My boyfriend, wanting to look all cool, mentioned my body image struggles right in front of the guy. I was mortified. This led to another heated argument right in the middle of the festival, attracting the attention of everyone around us. By the time we got home that night, I was just done. A few days later, I got a text from him asking to talk. We met at a coffee shop, and he started bringing up wanting to plan a vacation together. I was like, what? You want to plan a vacation when we can't even have a normal conversation about something as serious as surgery? He got all defensive and said I was being unreasonable. Seriously? Our conversation escalated into another public argument, with people staring at us like we were some sort of exhibit. Afterward, I suggested we take a break from each other to think things through. He reacted strongly, insisting that breakups were unnecessary and that he loved me as I was. A week later, I got a call from him asking to meet at a park. He showed up with flowers and an apology, trying to smooth things over. But then, the conversation ended with him wanting to move in together. I just wasn't ready for that. Our relationship felt all sorts of precarious, with the breast reduction issue still hanging over our heads. I mean, what do I even do at this point? Edit. It's been about 3 weeks since the last update, and things have changed significantly. After the meeting in the park, I needed space to sort out my feelings. I took some time to think and even spoke with close friends. They emphasized the importance of valuing my feelings, which really resonated with me. I finally had a heart-to-heart with my boyfriend, and I told him I needed him to prioritize my feelings above his preferences. Thankfully, he agreed without any arguments. Am I the idiot for leaving my husband after finding out about his gay fantasy on Grindr? We've been together for 9 years and married for 2. I don't know what to do. We now have a child together who will be 2 months old on Tuesday. I'm still on maternity leave for another month. I woke up yesterday morning and went out to the living room to take my shift with our son. My husband left his phone out in the living room, and I didn't think it was a big deal. So I left it there and figured I'd let him grab it when he woke up from our bedroom the next morning. When I grabbed his phone later, the lock screen said he had notifications from Grindr. I knew he was bisexual. As far as I know, he's only had one intimacy encounter with a guy, and that was before we were dating over 9 years ago. But that he downloaded Grindr and was messaging guys? In our marriage, where I just had a baby? So I opened his phone and looked. One of the messages I read was from literally that night. He got pictures from some guy. He told the guy he was aroused and tipsy, that he wanted to breed him so bad, that he made him so incredibly hard. I saw messages from over a year ago where he sent pictures of himself. Just face pictures. I didn't see any nudes sent from him, but I don't know if I just didn't see them. It looked like he sporadically went on the app. I found one short conversation with a man in the middle of the day from just over a week ago when he was at work. In the middle of the day, chatting about his lunch. I remember seeing the date of that message and feeling worse because that was a morning. I woke up and just felt horrible. I had a few drinks the night before. The baby was completely safe and had stored milk. I felt so guilty the next morning. I had a panic attack. I tried calling my therapist as soon as they opened. and my husband went on Grindr to message other men. So when I found this, I packed up some of my stuff and my son's stuff and drove to my parents' house. He tried to get me to stay, asking if we could talk. I said I'm not ready. I don't really know what he can say to make this better. He said it was all just a gay fantasy. But downloading Grindr does not make this a fantasy anymore. He says he's never met with anyone outside of our marriage, and I believe that, but I still consider this cheating on me. I'm staying with my parents currently. I'm a teacher in the area. On top of being so hurt and betrayed, I'm scared this could somehow become a rumor or scandal about me. I have a coworker who is gay and single that works right across the hall from me, and I'm 2 months postpartum, dealing with being home alone with a baby just about every day, breastfeeding, trying so hard to feel good about myself and that I'm doing enough as a mom. Then he went and did this to me, or continued doing it, and I just finally saw it. I suppose it's worth mentioning that his parents are separated because his dad struggled with a intimacy addiction, but he is his own person and did this to me himself. Now for an update. He texted me saying he's contacted a therapist in the area and is setting up an appointment. I just don't know what to do from here. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think that once your fantasies involve and interact with real people, that's when not telling your partner crosses the line from being reasonably private about your masturbation habits to being unfairly secretive about your extramarital intimacy activities. I think that a separation while he gets some therapy and figures out why he's been feeling compelled to do this and makes meaningful amends is the only way this relationship could maybe be repaired. But I think you're well within your rights to not give him that second chance. Comment 2. I honestly think it's even worse when men do this to their postpartum or pregnant wives. Some people are at their lowest self-esteem when just having a baby, and instead of building you up, he went and made fantasies elsewhere. Honestly, that's unforgivable to me. Either way, you should get tested for sexually transmitted diseases just in case he's not telling the whole truth. Even though it doesn't seem like he met up with any Grindr guys, who knows if he found somewhere else to cheat. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Now for the update. 3 days have passed since moving in with my parents, and the shock still lingers. My husband kept texting, trying to convince me to come home and saying he wanted to work on things. I ignored his messages, focusing on the baby and managing the chaos at my parents' house. My mom made me and the baby dinner one night, a simple pasta dish, while my dad watched TV in the living room. My younger sister, Kate, visited and shared the latest gossip about her friends, trying to lighten the mood. I started getting texts from my husband saying he was meeting with a therapist. He mentioned wanting to talk about our future and trust issues. I overheard my parents talking about my situation late at night, worried about me. They suggested a family dinner to bring everyone together, hoping to ease the tension. The dinner included my older brother, Jake, and his wife, Rachel, who were excited about their upcoming baby. During dinner, my dad brought up how important trust is in a marriage. My brother joked about how he and Rachel were ready for parenthood, contrasting my situation. My husband texted again, asking if I was willing to meet at a local coffee shop. I agreed, wanting to see what he had to say, but also feeling a sense of obligation. We met at the coffee shop, a place we went to a lot before the baby. He looked nervous and kept fidgeting with his coffee cup. I listened as he talked about wanting to be a better partner and father. He admitted to seeking out connections online during a tough time, saying it was about fantasy, not reality. I asked him why he felt the need to seek comfort elsewhere. He hesitated, saying he felt disconnected after the baby was born. Later that week, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It turned out to be a guy from Grindr, letting me know he had been talking to my husband. I confronted my husband about the call, and he denied it at first. He eventually admitted that he had been misleading people online, trying to escape reality. I decided it was time to take control of the situation. I coordinated with my family to have a birthday party for my mom, inviting my husband as a peace offering. During the party, I shared a toast, thanking everyone for their support. I subtly revealed that I knew about his online activities. Watching his face turn pale, the room went quiet. My parents looked shocked, while Jake and Rachel exchanged glances. I said I was done with the lies and deceit and was ready to make my own choices. After the party, I packed up some of my husband's stuff and left them at his doorstep. I included a note saying we needed to figure out our lives separately for now. Edit. I appreciate everyone's support. To answer some questions, my husband and I had a good relationship before this, and I never suspected anything. His late work hours were due to overtime. We had a healthy intimacy life, but he says he felt different after the baby. I don't know if I want to try therapy with him. The guy from Grindr was just a connection and nothing physical happened. I'll focus on my baby and myself for now. Am I the idiot for wanting to celebrate our anniversary without babysitting my drunk boyfriend? My boyfriend and I just had our 2-year anniversary, and we went on a camping trip to celebrate. It was a big, elaborate trip. We had to fly to get there. Our trip went perfectly, with no delays and everything on time. We arrived at baggage claim and mistakenly went to the wrong baggage claim. Keep in mind our correct baggage claim was 2 down. But instead of allowing me to figure it out and read the signs, he storms out and has me get everything myself. We rented a car, and he was still upset about the luggage situation, even though we did end up getting everything. He rushed me throughout every process, which is why I could not find the baggage claim at the right time, and we were not far from where our luggage actually was. We are not in a rush at all to get to our campsite. It is 10 a.m. at this point, so we have plenty of time to set up camp. Yet he is still mad at me over this. We get to the campsite and set up camp, but he is just in a sour mood during the whole process, criticizing me non-stop for not being able to professionally set up camping equipment I have never dealt with before. When we booked this trip, I told him I was so happy to reconnect with him, as I feel like we needed to get away from our life stressors and focus on just us. As soon as we set up camp, he notices our neighbors are partying, so he immediately goes over and makes nice with them. But it is more than a 15-minute meet and greet. He spends hours over there. I am more introverted, and my idea of a good time is not meeting new people, especially on a trip that I envisioned to be about us reconnecting. I am also newly sober, so it is hard for me to be around certain situations that include socializing with strangers and being around people who are partying. We had plans to go to a concert the first night we were there, and he was pretty drunk as he had been day drinking. He fell asleep, and I tried to wake him up, but could not get him up until 10 minutes before the concert started. We were late to the concert, and I thought he would be done with drinking, but he drank more during the concert. I made a comment along the lines of maybe just having one more drink and being done for the night, and he freaked out, saying I could just watch the concert alone and that he would do his own thing. To set the scene, we were in the pit of a venue that is in a completely different state with no cell phone service. I didn't want to lose him at the concert and be alone. We got back and he was apologetic, saying he would not drink that much the rest of the week we were there. Yet the week went on and he got drunk almost every single day. He spent most of the time with our neighbors at the campsite. There was one point where he told me not to follow him to the neighbor's campsite, and I sat there alone with no cell service for 2 hours while he was next door partying. We got back home yesterday, and today was our official anniversary. I told him I did not feel like spending the day with him because of his behavior on the trip. I expressed that I felt very alone during the trip and that we spent 0 quality time together. He flipped out and turned it around on me, saying I ruined our anniversary. Now we are on the cusp of breaking up, and the ball is in my court. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why do girls accept terrible behavior from boyfriends? Your option is to continue being a doormat until he finds the girl he really wants to be with, or break up and expect better than an alcoholic partner who not only expects you to do everything in the relationship, but gets mad at you when things don't go his way. He's not into you. He wants a mother and a party buddy. Comment 2. Oh honey, he's a selfish and inconsiderate person who is going to be extremely hurtful towards you in some capacity. He has already verbally abused you and abandoned you on something that was meant to connect you both. Put the energy towards something else, like a cat who will only get grumpy if you're late feeding it. Now, for the update. A few days after the camping trip from hell, my boyfriend texted me asking to meet up. He suggested we talk at a local diner we used to go to on dates. I was surprised he wanted to meet in public because, after that trip, I thought he was done with me. Anyway, I went. At the diner, he seemed more relaxed than he did during the trip. And I guess that's not saying much. He started by apologizing for his behavior and admitted he felt pressure to impress our neighbors. I listened, but I felt skeptical about how genuine he sounded. He was so much fun on the trip. Then he brought up our plans for a weekend getaway the following month and suggested we try to make it fun. I just gave him a blank stare. Fun? We hadn't had any fun on the last trip. He tried to start talking about it, but I interrupted. I told him I was concerned about his drinking habits, especially during our trips. He brushed off my concerns, saying it was just a one-time thing. Oh yeah, right. That's what they all say. So we finished our meal, and he suggested going for ice cream afterward. I was still feeling uneasy about him, but I agreed. So we walked to the ice cream shop, but on the way we passed a bar, and he insisted on stopping in for a drink. I hesitated, but I went in with him, thinking maybe it might help ease the, whatever there was between us. Inside, he ordered a round of shots, and I opted for a soda. Not that I needed a drink to have fun. As we sat at the bar, he became increasingly animated and flirty with the bartender. He was practically dancing. After a few drinks, he suggested we invite the bartender to join us. I declined and said I wanted to leave, which made him mad. He accused me of ruining the fun, and then he stormed out of the bar. So I followed him outside, and he pushed me away and told me to go home. Oh, hell no. I told him I wasn't going anywhere, and I wasn't done talking. He just kept saying, "Go home." The next morning, he texted me saying he wanted to talk again, and we agreed to meet at a friend's birthday party later that day. At the party, the atmosphere was lively with music and games. I tried to enjoy myself, but I was still reeling from the night before. He showed up later and seemed drunk already. He found me and immediately started joking with other guests, ignoring me completely. A few minutes later, he came outside looking for me and found me sitting alone. He made a big show of how he missed me, but I just rolled my eyes. Then he pulled out a small gift box and handed it to me. Inside was a bracelet he bought, meant to symbolize our relationship. He then proposed a toast with drinks he brought from the party. As we raised our glasses, he suddenly got a text and checked his phone. He reads it aloud, revealing an invitation to go to a concert with the neighbors. He was so excited and was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome." He was like a kid on Christmas morning. He argued that I should be happy for him and suggested I join him. Are you kidding me? Before leaving, I told him I needed time apart to think about things. He dismissed me, saying I'd regret it later. A week later, I got a call from my sister, who told me my boyfriend had been seen out with the neighbors frequently. That was quick. He eventually texted me, wanting to meet up again, but I ignored the message. I just can't. I'm done. Edit. I want to clarify that I didn't mention drinking in excess before because it wasn't a regular thing for him. He would drink occasionally, but during that trip, it was like he needed to prove something. The bracelet he gave me was actually the second one. He gave me the first one on our first anniversary, but I lost it. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.